You know, I think one of the coolest things about Atari Combat is the attitude behind the design. If you didn't have friends, you weren't even allowed to play. I think there's a great irony to be seen when you look at today's modern shooters. And people complain that there's no focus in the single player, and it's bad that a game can be developed with just the multiplayer in mind. When in fact, as far back as Atari Combat, you weren't even allowed in the club unless you had friends. There was single player was not even something they considered. I mean, as far as design goes, yeah, it was a really simple game. There's not a lot to it. And the fact is, when you put it in, you can't really play it too long before getting bored. But I think that's kind of the charm of it too. It's the perfect game to get a couple of people and just hang out, and the focus of hanging out then becomes laughing and hanging out with your friends rather than getting engrossed in a really deep video game.
You want to switch? You want to be red?
Again, the attitude is very different. Combat feels more like an activity among friends rather than what you'd consider a video game by conventional standards. Everybody who collects Atari games now has got a copy of Combat lying around, but since it was a pack-in, I'm sure that was kind of the way it was back then too. Everybody who played Atari games had a copy of Combat. So I imagine if you went over to one of your pals' houses who had an Atari, you guys both knew the game, and you can dive right in. It was simple, charming, and a lot of fun. And that is why Combat is an awesome Atari game.